And so the first place we're going around the world is to Canada, where we welcome Michael McSweeney and Andrew Noseworthy from industry and from government, respectively. And gentlemen, I hand over to you.
Well, thank you very much, and very much appreciate the invitation to participate in this session. We attach a great deal of priority to the work that the GCCA has done in this space. It's been incredibly valuable to us. As some of you may already be aware, late last year, Canada set out an ambitious climate agenda that includes a range of initiatives to drive emission reductions. Our present goal is to reduce national emissions to 40 to 45% below 2005 levels by 2030, and we're committed to net zero by 2050. Our plan includes a variety of measures, including a price on carbon, regulatory measures, and support for large-scale industrial decarbonization initiatives. Importantly, we see our plan not just as an environmental policy, but also as an industrial policy. The world around us is changing rapidly, and how industry seizes the demand to reduce carbon will ultimately impact on the competitiveness of companies, industries, and ultimately nations. While the importance of transition within the fossil fuel sector has been a key issue in this trend, the imperative for change is really impacting on all industries. And in some cases, the pandemic is forcing us to think more quickly and in a more focused way about future competitiveness. In Canada, this has caused us to really think strategically about how government and industry can work together to drive change. Now, in the case of cement is one of the largest sources of industrial sector emissions in the world. I've seen some estimates suggesting as high as 25% of industrial CO2 emissions. Within Canada, the industry is also economically important, directly employing over 150,000 people. In this context, it's an especially critical player in Canada's industrial transition and decarbonization plans. And to this end, earlier this year, the Government of Canada and the Cement Association of Canada established a joint working group committing us to work together on decarbonization and to bring forward a roadmap that will provide the Canadian cement and concrete industry with the technologies, tools, and policies needed to achieve net zero carbon concrete by 2050. We have set ambitious targets for our work, hoping to reduce over 15 megatons of GHGs cumulatively by 2030, and then ongoing reductions of over 4 megatons annually. Now, we're just embarking on the details of this work and have established technical committees to drive discussion on the development of proposals for further collaboration in areas like procurement, building knowledge and supporting market development, driving innovation through codes and standards, and supply chain development. Our ambition is to have this work done late this year, and while our focus is on decarbonization, our discussions are inevitably touching on how we can collaborate to both support innovation and strengthen the efficiency of the industry more broadly. I believe Michael may speak in a little bit more detail about the structure of our work, and while the specifics of our plan are still evolving, I've already seen one important takeaway, and that relates to the value of government-industry collaboration. The group we brought together includes broad representation from a cross-section of folks inside and outside government and across the full breadth of industry. And even at this early stage, the sharing of perspectives has had great value. It has shown me, and I believe other participants, how important it is that we learn from one another and that we should not shy away from adopting or adapting innovations we see in other jurisdictions. In that context, I again want to thank the GCCA for the work it's done, and especially appreciate the value of sessions like this one, which are so instrumental to sharing ideas. And with that, perhaps I could hand the virtual microphone over to Michael McSweeney.
Thanks, Andrew, and thanks, Andrew Minson and friends around the table and around the world. As Andrew has said, and as you can see, we've been very fortunate to have a productive and collaborative working relationship with not only Canada's national government, but with our subnational governments as well, and for as long as the past decade, particularly when it comes to dealing with carbon pricing systems for energy-intensive sectors like cement. With these policies firmly in place, and as you've heard from Andy, Canada is thinking more deeply about our industrial policy and what it will take to get to some of the hardest to abate sectors on a path to net zero. Net zero cement and concrete is an audacious goal. We're certainly one of the most difficult sectors to fully decarbonize, but we're a fundamentally solutions-oriented industry. And as the GCCA has proven, we know how to get there, even if the journey remains challenging. That's why the Canadian cement and concrete industry was eager to be among the first industries in Canada to get out of the gate to strengthen our collaboration with governments and policymakers who are committed to reducing GHGs in Canada by 15 megatons by 2030 on our road to net zero, and in support of Canada's recent strengthened targets of 40 to 45% greenhouse gas reduction by 2030. And while both our 2030 and 2050 net zero targets will be a challenge, there still is a lot of low-hanging fruit left to pick. The issue is that harvesting this low-hanging fruit is simply not a matter of technology investment or process changes. It's a matter of policy, procedural, and even cultural changes in government and across the construction value chain. For example, in Canada, it has been shockingly difficult to obtain permits to replace fossil fuels in our kilns with lower carbon alternatives. Our permitting system is simply not designed to consider fuels other than coal, petcoke, and natural gas. Imagine governments across Canada that tout a climate emergency still encourage the cement industry to use fossil fuels. But thankfully, things are starting to change. Similarly, when it comes to a more ambitious and capital-intensive decarbonization technologies like hydrogen and CCUS, there has been until recently no deliberative strategy nor government financing mechanism that match the scale of the net zero ambition. These strategies are now being developed in a highly collaborative way and are supported in Canada, for example, by an $8 billion net zero accelerator fund, as well as matching technology-specific supports for CCUS and hydrogen, which will be critical to support the cement sector's net zero goal. Surprisingly, one of the biggest challenges to getting to net zero to market is getting other actors in the value chain to accept them. For example, in Canada, we've introduced the new low carbon cement called Portland limestone cement. It's a cost equivalent drop-in substitute for regular cement that's been used in Europe, as you know, for the past 3 decades, and it can reduce greenhouse gases by 10%. Imagine equivalent performance and green for free. Equivalent performance and green for free. That's our new motto as we go across the country to talk to municipal governments and provincial governments. But the biggest obstacle to its adoption in Canada is ironically public procurement professionals who have yet to come to understand their role and responsibility in addressing the climate emergency. This must change, and quickly, or it could prove to be a major impediment to realizing our carbon reduction strategies. It can't just be ministers of the environment or ministers of natural resources that are talking about how to reduce greenhouse gases. There's no silver bullet, it's silver buckshot. And each of us has to play a role in civil society and in government and figure out how we can reduce greenhouse gases in our own areas or areas that we control. So this is one area that the Canadian industry and government of Canada have identified as a critical aspect to our partnership. We are working to identify what needs to be done in terms of R&D, education, and policy to ensure that public procurement accelerates rather than hinders the adoption of low carbon solutions we need to make net zero a reality. In essence, we are working towards procurement policies that adopt a life cycle lens on all public infrastructure projects, migrating away from the lowest cost solutions to solutions that focus on value, including the economic value of making decisions based on life cycle cost, life cycle greenhouse gases, and the adoption of best available technologies to encourage innovation. My line is simple: build it once, build it right, and build it to last. If we get this right, we believe it will address a major obstacle to climate progress by transforming government procurement into market-leading, market-making tools for decarbonizing cement and concrete and the construction sector as a whole. So thanks again for this wonderful opportunity to address those who are participating virtually or in person at COP26. Thank you.
Michael, thank you so much to you and also to Andrew from Canadian government. Delighted to hear that. And as we worked on the roadmap going around the world, we heard of many examples where the ambition of reducing the carbon, the impediment to it was that low-hanging fruit. So use of Portland limestone cement, as Canada has just explained to us, were not being adopted because of the demand was not there. And so there are low-hanging fruits available through this material that is so versatile in how it can be used.